Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I am Evanka Nila Trifani from TBI Class A, Semester 6. Here I am, would like to present about my journal review. And the title is Learning Styles of Indonesian EFL Students in Culture and Learning. This journal is written by Yana Santi Manipuspika, Study Program of English, Faculty of Cultural Studies, Universitas Brawijaya Malang, Indonesia. Okay, we start from background of the study first. Learners' success in language learning is affected by many factors, including age, aptitude and intelligence, cognitive style, attitudes, motivation, and personality. Besides, learning strategies and learning styles also help to succeed in language learning. This paper discusses the learning style preferences of the first year students at English Department, Universitas Brawijaya Malang, Indonesia. There were two problems that attempt to be answered. First, what are the learning styles used by the students? And second, how influential is culture to the students' learning? The results showed that more than 50% of respondents prefer visual mode, and the remaining were auditory learners, kinesthetics, and bimodal learners who combine visual and auditory modes in learning English. Understanding the styles of learning can be very useful for the students to learn in the way they learn best through the activities. Okay, next into literature review. Definition of learning styles. Learning styles may be defined in many ways. She, or researcher, adds that learning styles have been used as a focus for assisting students in higher education to realize their full learning potential. She argues that learning style preference is one aspect of learning style and refers to the choice of one learning situation or condition over another. Sales Murcia in 2001 defines learning styles as the general approaches, for example, global or analytic, auditory or visual, that students use in acquiring a new language or in learning any other subject. The manner in which a learner perceives, interacts with, and responds to the learning environment. Okay, we are still in literature review. And then about general learning styles, there are three main learning styles: visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. The definitions of these learning styles are as follows. Visual learners. These learners are learning best through a visual channel such as image, bulletin boards, videos, and movies. Visual learners also like to read a lot, which requires concentration and time spent alone. And then auditory learners. Learners who have auditory learning styles are the ones who absorb the material through verbal lectures, discussion, group work, and conversation through listening to what others say. These students typically require only oral directions. And then kinesthetic learners are the best learning through a hands-on approach. They like to make physical movement and interaction. Method or research design. Maxwell 20 and 10 states quantitative data can help researchers to identify patterns that are not apparent simply from the unquantified qualitative data or even to participants, and it may adequately present evidence for the interpretations. So the researcher has been collected in the form of numbers, is then calculated into a percentage to be then explained descriptively. Research instrument. Bart's Learning Styles Inventory or BLSA, which is a questionnaire developed by Jeffrey Bartz, was used as the instrument for collecting data. The statements indicate the visual learning style, such as like to write things down or text notes for a visual review. Can understand and follow direction through maps. Feel the best way to remember is to picture it on your head, and so on. While the statements indicate auditory learning style, for instance, can remember more about a subject through listening than reading, require explanation of the diagram, graphs, or visual direction, can tell if sounds match when presented pairs of sounds, and so on. The measurements of this questionnaire were calculated 5 points for answering. Often, 3 points for answering sometimes, and 1 point for answering seldom. The measurement saw the students' preferences for learning styles, the learning type which got the highest total point, it would be the learning type that the students prefer to use. And then for data collection, to collect the data, the researcher following steps were taken. First, BLSE questionnaire was distributed to the students. They are given an explanation about the purpose of the study and then are asked to fill it in sincerely and honestly according to their own experience of learning English. The researcher emphasized that the questionnaire wouldn't change or affect their academic report. Data analysis. After the data were collected by a researcher, the steps of analyzing data were as follows. Firstly, each statement was converted into a number because every statement has different points. 5 points for often, 3 points for sometimes, and 1 point for seldom. The next step was calculating the points from each category to get the total point. From the total point, the highest point would be the preferences. This would be the type of learning style which was used by the participant. After the quantitative was ready, it was then described and discussed. Okay, findings and discussion. After distributing the PLSE questionnaire to the participants, the students' learning style preferences were identified. The inventory was classified into 3 categories, namely visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. The highest score from the questionnaire would be the learning style which was preferred by them. Therefore, they learned the best with the learning style they desired to use. You can see on the table 1 about students' learning preferences, and table that provides the calculations of students' learning preferences. There were only 73 students returned the questionnaire sheet. It can be seen from the table that the majority of students prefer visual learning. 61.7%. The second learning style preference favored by the students was auditory. Of 73 students, 24.6% prefer to use auditory styles in their learning. In auditory mode, there was a statement that got the highest point, which is number 13. I learned to spell better by repeating the letters out loud than by writing the word on paper. The third learning style preference favored by the students was kinesthetic. In kinesthetic mode, there were 5.5% of the students who preferred it as their learning style. Finally, 8.2% of the students were apparently bimodal. It seen from the results of the questionnaire, and this number outweighs kinesthetic learners. Bimodal learners displayed equal numbers in their visual and auditory mode results. Discussion. The research finding displayed four learning style preferences used by the freshmen of English Department Universitas Brawijaya Malang, namely visual, auditory, kinesthetic, and bimodal. The variety of learning styles indicated that the learning preference of each individual was the result of their customs and culture. It is biologically innate and it is related to personality, so each individual possesses different learning styles. Ideally, the material should be delivered by adjusting to students' preferences. It also happened to the English department students, where almost all their lectures have used multimedia such as PowerPoint in the learning process. Thus, visual learners are interested to see the material, so they would be easier to receive the material, since the most dominant learner are visuals. Since it was the highest point from all statements that indicated visual activities, it means that visual learners in this study often do the activity in the learning process. Nevertheless, bimodal learners might not always use visual and auditory in every learning process. Moreover, in auditory activities, they mostly like to listen to their lecturers' explanation and listen to the audio to get a better understanding. In addition, bimodal learners also like to read materials out loud than writing words in a paper, and like to listen to the verbal explanation. So it could be seen that bimodal learners really combine both of visual and auditory. Yes, visual and auditory activities in learning to help them to receive materials easier. Last but not least, conclusion. To sum up, every participant had their own learning style to learn English. Recommendations are made for students to maximize their potential in learning by using the strategies related to their learning style preferences. The students can face any teaching method that is used by lectures, also any learning environment, uh, if they prepare themselves by knowing their strengths and the strategies that they could use. By understanding their students' learning preferences, the lecturers can create enjoyable and effective in teaching and learning. Okay, thank you. That's all about my present of this journal. And thank you so much for your nice attention. If you have any question, just feel free to ask on the group. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.